Happy Thursday, everyone. Let's have some fun. Let's slow things down. And let's work on some strength. Single arm strength and single leg strength today, actually, to be exact. So we're going to have some fun with some single arm and single leg work to get ourselves going. But before we get to the work set, let's talk about our warm-up. Our warm-up is pretty straightforward today. It is a dynamic triangle, 3 to 5 a side. Sumo good morning for 5. Windmill, 3 to 5 per side. Bridge pullback for 5 at a 5 to 10 second contraction. Working on that good hearty hamstring engagement. We'll do that for 1 to 2 rounds. We're going to move into a practice round, which is just going to give you an opportunity to practice the movements, maybe take them through empty-handed, make sure everything feels pretty good, or building load to where you see fit for yourself in the work set. So I'll have that on the workout description. We'll get that out for you guys so you have an idea, or just one way to do it. You don't have to follow it that way, but if you'd like to, it'll be there for you. Now the movements today in today's strength work, we're going to live in that 4 to 6 round work set. So we're going to live in that wherever you feel comfortable with that dose. On average, when I do classes and Zoom classes, we're looking at about 5 rounds of work, and that takes about 22 to 25 minutes of time. So if you're looking at that going, yeah, it's pretty good time frame for myself as well. Do it up. 5 rounds is a nice mid-range. You need a little less, or want a little less volume. 4 rounds is perfect, and if you're like, I got time and I want a little bit more, 6 rounds is where you're at. You're probably looking at a little bit more closer to 30 minutes in that time frame. So keep that in mind as you are going through this. But what we are working on today is a single leg RDL, 30 seconds per side. You're going to give yourself a 10-second transition between legs so you can set up well and make sure we're getting ourselves really primed up and in a good position for balance. Once we're done both sides, we'll rest 15 seconds. You'll then move into a dumbbell shoulder press for 30 seconds per side with that 10-second transition so you can get into that good rack position and set yourself up well. Now, if you have a dumbbell at home that's too heavy to shoulder press, you can live with that push press. You can use that little hip and leg assist to get that dumbbell moving. But we're going to keep that nice, smooth focus. If you do have a dumbbell that allows you to shoulder press, choose the shoulder press. Work that good base foundational movement overtaking the dynamic, because we do a lot of push press in our work sets. So if you have the option, choose the shoulder. If not, rock the push press. From there, we're going to rest 15 seconds, moving into our foot assist pistol for 30 seconds aside. Again, taking that 10-second transition between legs to get yourself set up, balanced, and squared into your movement. After both sides, we'll hit up 15 seconds of rest and finish on the floor with a single arm dumbbell floor press. Again, 30 seconds per side with that 10 seconds transition to get yourself in good position. You'll then finish off with a 15-second rest and repeat. So lots of movement in there, lots of different stuff to take on. We get a hinge, we get a squat, we get 2 different types of presses. Ooh, it's going to be a good day. Going to be a good day, all right? Now keep in mind as well, each of these movements has a 3-second eccentric. So that is a 3-second lowering phase of our movements, and we'll talk about that as we get through our movement descriptions. Let's get you warmed up. Let's get you ready. We'll have some fun today. All right, let's get those feet underneath those hips. We're going to take the arms big and tall. We're going to take a big stretch to one side. Then we're going to reach it over to the other side. Come back up. We're going to scratch our back and reach through that elbow. Big reach. Come back up. Big stretch. Scratch your back and reach. Come back up. Big stretch. And we'll take it all the way to the floor, touching those toes. From here, we're going to walk up the shins. We're going to come back down, framing the foot. We're going to step back into that lizard. We're nice and square in those hips. We're going to lower our back knee down to the floor. We're just going to press that hip down gently. And then we're going to come back through center, opening up with that outside hand. Big reach overhead, and then we'll come back down. We're going to press that hip. We're going to come back through. Outside hand is going to reach up to the sky. Come back down. Pressing that hip, and last time opening up to that nice outside reach. Planting that hand, straightening out that back leg. We're going to step back into our down dog. Setting up those shoulders nice and strong, nice and solid here. We'll pull back into our plank. Stepping that other foot up into our lizard. We're going to lower that back knee down, pressing the hip. We'll come through, outside hand reaching up to the sky. Down, pressing the hip, come back through, outside hand reaching up, and then coming back down. One more time, press that hip, and outside hand reaching up in the sky. Good. Planting that hand, we'll press that leg back, stepping into our down dog again, setting those shoulders, walking those heels, nice and slow, nice and steady, and then coming back into our plank, pulling those ribs in, pushing those shoulders to the ceiling. We'll tiptoe, roll it up, big stretch, big reach, big reach. Good, we'll come down. Waking up those arms and legs, let's get ourselves ready to go. And if you'd like to take a moment to do any extra kind of gentle warm up, a little bit more leg, a little more upper body, please do so. Pause the video, take that down, then come join me for our kind of general warm up that's going to get our body really ready to go before we start tackling those movements of the day. To get ourselves started on this first phase, we're going to start off with our dynamic triangle. So we're going to get our feet out to that sumo stance. We're going to turn a toe straight ahead, other toe on a slight angle, so that's going to set our hips up on this nice diagonal. One hand is going to come to the thigh. We're going to reach the other arm up in that good overhead position, and we're going to pull that hip back as we maintain that overhead position as we take it down as deep as we feel comfortable. Remembering that the initiation of that hinge is that pulling back of the hip that brings my hand down the shin and then slowly rises back up overhead. So we're always working on activating that arm into that good position, and we're bringing that hip back to get that good start to the hinge. So it's a very subtle hinge to get that hip kind of going towards the heel and tipping the body over as we take it down. That's going to create some space to both sides of the torso and allow us to get a really good side stretch. From there, we're going to come back into our sumo stance. I'm going to turn profile so you can see my hinge again. So we're going to work on just priming up our hamstrings a bit. So we set our hips, set our ribs. I'm going to work on hinging at that hip crease, and I'm going to pull my hips back, keeping my big toes on the floor, but my weight is going to stay through that midfoot, so right where my laces are. And that's going to allow me to get that nice full foot contact with the ground and stay really balanced as I rock that hinge. So I really want to feel that hamstring, upper hamstring and glute to make sure that I'm feeling that really nice engagement there. Now after my sumo good morning, I'm going to stay in that sumo stance. I'm going to work through my windmill. So again, working on a little bit of rotation in that shoulder position. So we're going to stay in that sumo stance. I'm going to press one arm up, press one arm down. I'm going to start by pulling the hips back, but then rotating low rib as I take it down towards the floor. Reaching that hand up to the sky, I'm going to take that other hand as deep as I feel comfortable. So if I don't feel comfortable going all the way to the floor, or I feel that shoulder starting to rotate inwards, I'm just going to stop my range of motion. So I take it up. If I'm going, I'm like, and that's good. I'm going to come back up, and I'm going to work to that edge. And that might change day to day, depending on what we've done throughout the week, how tight we are in certain spots, where we're feeling that engagement and rocking that position. So take your time, work through that windmill really well, make sure we're feeling pretty good there, and that we're just listening to that shoulder range. Last but not least, we're going to work on our bridge pullback. So we're going to get a nice set of hamstring work. So I'm going to lay on my back. We're going to pull those feet up so they're flat, just outside my fingers. I'm going to press my hands into the floor. I'm going to get my set chest and my shoulders open a little bit. I'm going to pull my ribs in so I feel that engagement through the core. I'm going to push down through my feet to lift into my bridge. And I'm going to shift my weight to the balls of my feet. From there, I'm going to pull my heels back towards my glutes. And I'm really focusing on that pullback. Trying to slide my feet back towards my glutes and hips. They're not going to move anywhere because the floor is going to keep them there, but we really want to focus on that nice hamstring contraction, and we're going to hold that for 5 to 10 seconds. But by holding that, I mean continually pulling back with the heel. We're not just holding that position once we get it, we want to continually hold that contraction. So really feel those hamstrings turning on. Again, we've talked about this in the past with this movement. There's a difference between shifting the weight to the balls of my feet and pushing into the toes. So we want to make sure that I'm just shifting my weight to the balls of the feet, which will loosen up some weight in the back of the heel, but I'm not pushing into my toe. That's just going to cause a lot of unnecessary tension in my calf, which could cause to some cramping midway through that movement because we're holding that position on the toes. So take your time with that, feel that out, feel that pull. If it's starting to get a little bit more free in length in that time frame, you can hold a little bit longer than that 10-second time frame. Hold anywhere from 15 to 20 seconds. Try and extend that time frame. We're looking for, we'll say, no more than about a minute in that time frame. So if you want to extend it, just think about that and kind of pair that in with the reps. So maybe you do 2 30-second holds or 3 20-second holds. You can play around with that to accumulate up to about a minute of contraction through the hamstrings. As a quick recap, we have a dynamic triangle for 3 to 5 a side, Sumo good morning for 5, Windmill for 3 to 5 a side, and a bridge pullback for 5 at a 5 to 10 second contraction per rep. We're going to do that 1 to 2 rounds, get yourself primed and ready to go before we tackle the movements in our practice round to get ourselves ready for the workout. So let's pause the video, take that down, and then come join me. We'll talk about our workout. We've got the body ready to go. We're going to talk about these movements in our movement set today, and we're going to do a little practice round as we get ourselves ready to go. So use this practice round as a chance to feel some loading, different types. See if you want to load certain things. Maybe you change your mind, you don't want to load something today, and that's fine. So see how you're feeling today, practice and play with these movements. We kickstart off with our single leg RDL. With the single leg RDL, I'm just going to talk to you guys about where to load this. So if you have a single dumbbell, you are going to hold it in one of 3 places. We can hold it by both bells to the front, you can hold it on that kickstand leg, or you can hold it on the other leg. The kicker here with this side is that we really have to focus on staying balanced, and we don't want to get too leaned over on the one side. I find for people with challenges staying square, the dumbbell on that kickstand leg or to the front is a nice starting point, but definitely experiment with all 3 because neither position is better nor worse. It just loads the body slightly different and they all offer us something good. Now, regardless of where you hold the dumbbell or dumbbells, the hinge of the body and the movement is the same. So I'm going to turn sideways so you can see my profile position. I'm going to get my toe down like a little kickstand, a little accessory to balance. I'm going to square my hips up to the front and squeeze and set my glutes. I'm standing tall, nice and straight, so I'm going to hold the dumbbell wherever it happens to be. And then from here, keeping those shoulders back and set, I'm going to pull my hip back, trying to keep that big toe down and the weight through the midfoot. I'm going to take the dumbbell to roughly just below my knees or my knee height, and then you're going to stand up nice and tall. So it's very important we focus on keeping the shoulders back and the weight distribution through our foot. It's very easy to pull back and lose contact with that big toe or the front portion of our foot when we start to initiate that hinge. So we really have to focus on that whole foot staying down, but keeping the weight through the laces, and that's going to help keep that nice flat foot contact down and that big toe down. It's a lot easier to fully engage the glutes if we can keep that big toe in contact with the ground. Challenging, very, very challenging. There's a lot going on there. So I want you guys to keep in mind, primary focus is thinking about that back position, getting that hinge down properly. Then, once that hinge begins to be kind of second nature and not have to think about it as much, set and then really focus in on the feet as that hinge does its thing. Because then you'll be able to bring both worlds together and think about that movement as a whole. So take your time with that. Again, play around with where you hold the dumbbell. If you always hold it on the kickstand leg, maybe try and hold it on the other side or to the front, just to switch it up today and get a different sensation. Our next movement is our dumbbell shoulder press. So we're going to work a strict press or a dumbbell push press, depending on what kind of loading we have available to us. So we're gonna clean the dumbbell up into that front rack position. My feet are gonna stay underneath of the hips. I'm gonna stay nice and tight through the glutes, through the ribs, so that I can allow my shoulder to do what it does naturally, which is press. So I'm gonna get myself set up in that good position, tight through my entire body, and then I'm gonna press that dumbbell straight up in that good overhead position. Then I'm gonna pull that dumbbell back down, keeping that elbow exactly where I want it. So when I press the dumbbell up, I want to focus on that arm or that bicep being slightly behind the ear if I can. In a perfect world, I can see the ear. If I can't, I want to try and keep that arm as even with the ear as I can. Slowly starting to build to that nice overhead position where we can see the ear on the other side of the arm. But that might take a little while, so I want you to keep working for it, keep active and keep working on keeping those ribs in as we press that dumbbell to the sky. A single arm shoulder press is a little easier to get that overhead position because it doesn't require as much mobility as a two-arm shoulder press. So take advantage of this single dumbbell and really work that good overhead position. Try and hit it every time. Now our push press ends and starts the exact same way. So we clean the dumbbell up to the shoulder, my feet are under the hips, except I'm going to use my hips and legs to get the dumbbell up. I'm going to get that nice vertical dip, so my hip stays under the shoulder, my knees go slightly out, my feet stay flat, and then I'm going to drive the dumbbell up. And I'm still hitting that good overhead position, and I'm going to pull the dumbbell back down. So we get that nice smooth dip, push, and then I smoothly pull it back down. Now with these push press in today's workout, I'd prefer them to be singles. So I prefer them not to be rebounds like we did in our work set the other day. So focusing on each individual rep as its own takes the momentum out of the equation, and it allows us to focus on that good strength, that good drive of each rep. So really embrace that idea of thinking about strength as today's focus and not worrying about trying to go as fast as you can. Because again, too, we're using that 3-second eccentric, so that 3-second lowering phase. So in that push press, if you're using that, 3 seconds down, take a breath and set, boom. 3 seconds down, take a breath, set, boom. And that gives you a chance to get tight, gives that arm a chance to reset before the next rep after that 3-second eccentric. After our shoulder press, we're going to come back to our lower body, and we have a few progressional stages for this foot assist pistol. If you have high volume pistols, I am totally fine with you using a full pistol if you have it, but I want you to make sure that you can maintain it throughout the rounds and that you're able to hit those reps really good and clean. If not, use this as an exercise to continue to build your volume in the pistol. So first stage of the foot assist pistol, we get our foot that we're going to use planted, and my toe is on the floor. My primary objective is to keep my focus on this balancing leg, and that's where my weight is going to stay. I'm going to set my hips like I did for my RDL, except I'm going to take my hips down, keeping my body upright as best I can to that bottom of the squat. I'm going to push through that leg to get that nice drive. But again, I'm trying to load this balancing leg with 90% of my body weight. That other toe is just there to help get me down with balance, and if I have an issue, gets me through the sticking point. But I want to try and derive all my energy through this one leg. Now a different variation of this, if you're like, you know what, I'm getting there, I'm getting my good depth consistently, I'm feeling this moving pretty good, it's getting easier. We're going to keep that toe down, but we're going to load it goblet style. So we're going to keep that toe down as a kickstand. I'm going to get the dumbbell under my chin. I'm going to set my hips, and I'm going to take my hips down, trying to stay again as upright as I can, keeping that flat foot contact like a normal squat, and then pushing through that balancing leg, maintaining that good position as I start to build capacity with a light load. So that's a nice bridge to the next exercise. So adding in that load, making sure we can hit our proper depth still, and then we're still just using that balancing leg as the movement factor. Now our next movement factor chance is to take away that balancing piece. So I pick my favorite leg again. I tuck that top of the foot on the heel, so I still get the assistance of the engagement and balance through the hip, but I don't get that assistance in the balancing factor with the foot on the floor. So I really do have to add in that extra piece with the balance. It's the exact same movement, all right, but I tuck that toe on, or the top of the foot on the back of the heel. I get set, I take my time, coming down, working on my range of motion, working on that position, pushing through that leg, and standing tall. So it really offers a great opportunity to take away that point of balance and still work on that good pistol with a little bit of foot assist. Now from there, I can load that as well. If it's starting to get a little bit easy, my balance is pretty bang on, I can load that in the goblet with a light load to work on a little bit more resistance without that balance piece. Then from there, there's a few other drills we can play with to start getting that full pistol, the leg out to the front, going. But those 4 different variations will give you a really good opportunity today to work on that capacity and build that capacity in that pistol. Pick one, have some fun with it, work it really well, see where it takes you today. Our last exercise today is the floor press. So the floor press we're gonna lay, we've done these quite a bit, but we're gonna do a single arm floor press today, which is a little different. We're gonna get our feet just outside of our fingers like a bridge. I'm gonna lay on my back, and my arms right now are both at a 45 degree at the armpit. So if you looked at me from the ceiling, I would look like a little arrow. Top of my head being the point, and my arms being the bottom portion, the arrowhead. Now, I'm gonna take my dumbbell, and I'm gonna get myself set up with one arm at this nice 45 degree. So I maintain, my wrist is stacked over top of my elbow, and I have some space between my chest and the dumbbell. I'm not collapsing inwards, and that dumbbell is touching my chest. It's nice and stacked in this position. Now the other arm is pressing into the floor, keeping the chest open, and keeping that shoulder in contact with the floor. From here, I'm gonna pull my ribs in, but I'm not trying to hollow out. I'm just trying to keep a slight engagement through my chest and maintain that good position, but there will naturally be a lumbar curve in that bottom back position. From here, I'm gonna push that dumbbell up so it finishes over top of my shoulder, and then I'm gonna come down 3 seconds into that nice centric to the bottom position. So I find that nice stacked arm, wrist over elbow, and I work that position nice and smooth. From there, I switch sides, and I'm just gonna turn on this angle so you guys can see that 45. So my arm, nice little 45 degree, pushing the other arm into the floor, I'm nice and stacked with my wrist over top of my elbow, push and finish over the shoulder, I pull back down to that nice sternum position. So I work that good range, I get that nice smooth position all the way through. Taking your time with this, the floor press, again, we want to make sure that we're keeping those arms in that 45 and that wrist stacked over top of the elbow. Nice engagement through the glutes, and we can use those feet as well as we press them into the floor to get a little bit more engagement through the legs and the lower half. Just because it's an upper body press doesn't mean the legs and the lower half doesn't have some help in that work set. It's not doing the press, but those lower body or the lower body can help stabilize the body so the shoulder can do what it needs to do naturally and efficiently. So as a quick recap with all these movements, we have our single leg RDL, 30 seconds per side with a 10-second transition between. Rest 15 seconds. Dumbbell shoulder press for 30 seconds aside, or push press for 30 seconds aside, depending on the loading you have access to. You'll have a 10-second transition between those arms as well. Moving into a 15-second rest, we'll move into our foot assist pistol, 30 seconds per side with a 10-second transition in between. Again, picking one of those variations I showed you to help build that capacity and move you along that pistol progression. 15 seconds of rest. We'll move on to the floor to finish off the round. We're going to work a dumbbell floor press for 30 seconds per side, 10-second transition between those arms, and then we move into our last 15-second rest before we jump back to the top of the list. Each rep has a 3-second eccentric, a lowering phase of the movement, so embrace and stay true to that eccentric. It adds a little extra bite to this work set. So embrace, have fun, and work for that quality tempo. All right, you guys, we're gonna slow things down today. We're gonna work for quality and have some time to get some good hearty reps in there and a good chance to build volume over the course of those 4 to 6 rounds. So pick your dose for today, have tons of fun, work for quality, and we'll see you tomorrow for another kind of gasser style work set, because we got some more birthdays coming up. Have a good day, you guys. We'll see you soon. Bye.